Well, hello and welcome. Well, at the young age of 34, top jockey Tommy Berry is certainly building an impressive CV. With wins in the Magic Millions, Golden Slipper Stakes and the ATC Derby, just to name a few. And he's been in some handy horses along the way, including Chautauqua, Designs on Rome and of course the Great Winks. But there are two races on the Australian racing calendar which have eluded him so far, the WS Cox Plate and the VRC Melbourne Cup. I caught up with Tommy during the week to talk about not only those two great races, but the highs and lows of a top jockey in one of the most competitive jockeys' room in the world. Well, Tommy Berry, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
No, it's always a pleasure, Steve. It's been great working with you over the years now on the other side of the camera. It's pretty cool.
Well, Tommy, was it always going to be that you and Nathan were going to be riders, given the fact that your dad had such a heavy involvement in the racing industry?
Yeah, I think so. Without us even knowing it, I think at the start we fell in love with just being around horses from a young age. Remember when we were just being able to walk at Paul Cave stables, he had a big Clydesdale that we used to go and sit underneath his belly and have breakfast before we went to school. And so we just fell in love with how kind and gentle the horses were and how sometimes you felt like they understood you more than what humans do. And I think a lot of people have sort of gravitated to that over the years. And then obviously got to riding and the adrenaline that comes with it. And then later on you figure out that you can earn plenty of money and do something that you love. So it made it quite easy.
Well, you mentioned Paul Cave, and I believe there was a frightening experience with you getting tossed off one of his ponies in the morning one day at Warwick Farm.
Yeah, there was quite a few of them. Paul was a tough master, that was for sure. And we had one of them. He dropped me going through the middle at Riley's there, and I got quite badly winded. And when you've been winded, especially for the first time, it's a scary feeling not being able to breathe for a little bit. And Paul made me get back on before I'd even got my breath back, and he buried me again. So I said to my old man, I don't want to ride anymore. And I think I went probably 6 to 8 months without even sitting on a horse, and then watched my brother doing so well at it, and just wanted to be around Nathan more often. So it got me back into riding again.
Now, you pretty well would remember your first ride at Goulburn.
It was at Hawkesbury, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm not sure why everyone. It must be on the records that it is Goulburn, because that's what everyone sort of says at the start. But no, Nathan and I both had our first ride at Hawkesbury on the same day, and he was a lot more forward than me in his riding and a lot more natural. And he was getting offers left, right, and centre. At the age of 15 and a half, and Dad said, you're not having your first race ride until you both have a ride on the same day. I want you to start off together, and then after that, I don't care where you end up. That's up to you guys, but you will start together. And Nathan was getting quite frustrated until a guy called Mr. Hudson, who trained at Warwick Farm there, Michael Hudson. He's unfortunately passed away. He gave me a ride on a horse, and Nathan rode for, it might have been Gary Neal, I think, maybe on that day. And they both missed the kick by about 5 or 6 lengths and finished last. So it wasn't our best first day in the saddle, not like other people that get a winner. And I remember my old man leaving the track saying, well, the only way is up. So, and it surely did, and not long after.
But Tommy, going through your riding record, and these figures may not be accurate either, 39 Group 1s?
Yeah, I think I'm 41 now, yeah.
Okay.
So,
58 Group 2s, 58 Group 3s. I mean, that's an impressive record. You must be proud of that.
I am. It's looking back to where I started when I was a kid. We were born into when I'd say a battling racing family. Just two parents that worked 7 days a week to make a great living for us. So to sort of think that you're going to be on the world stage with some of the best jockeys, 6-7 years down the track, was something that I couldn't even fathom. I remember saying to my father, I want to be a Grant Buckley and a Jeff Penzer when I get older and ride at the provincials, because they're the guys that used to ride my father's horses. And then you're riding at the provincials all the time, and you start riding in town, and you're like, no, bugger that, I want to ride in the city. And then you get your first Group 1 winner, and it's like a drug that you want to take every day. And yeah, the sky's the limit in racing, and it doesn't matter where you are or where you've come from. You can make your own luck in this game, and if you conduct yourself well, then I think you can get to wherever you believe your limit is.
Magic Millions, Golden Slipper Stakes, Derbies. I mean, some pretty good horses amongst those too. But the one I want to talk to you about is the grey Chautauqua. I mean, if anyone hasn't seen his last TJ Smith win, I mean, he comes from an impossible point on the turn where you think this horse can't win this race, and he does, right?
Yeah.
You must have a great affiliation with him.
Yeah, I did. I loved him for his quirks, which probably worked against us towards the end of his career, but it's probably what made him as good a racehorse as he was. And yeah, he's third. I'm not big at looking back on replays. I'm very focused on the future and what I want to achieve and believe I can achieve. But that's one replay that I watch probably once a month. It's just one that either pops up on your Instagram or your Facebook or your Twitter, or you just sort of think back to that day and you go back and watch that third TJ Smith, because even as a rider, I felt like I was in control and had the race won out there. But then going back and watching it, I never did till late, you know. So quite a remarkable win and a remarkable horse. And the way he went about his business, whether it was at home at track work or in his races, it was all about letting him do what he wanted to do and hoping he could reward you at the other end.
Now, at the tail end of his career, he got some real quirky ideas that he didn't want to be a racehorse anymore. Did he ever give you an indication in a race that that's what was going to happen down the track?
No, he didn't. And even when he'd missed a kick by a length or two, he'd still come out and win. You know, he had that real will to win, incredible will to win. He was a horse that I've never been able to ride a horse that can sustain a run for 800 metres, and he was able to run incredible times, which he had to win from the positions he used to get himself in. But I think that day at Moonee Valley, he got scratched behind the barriers when he kicked the barriers, and then he went home. And you've got to think about a horse that puts his heart and sleeve into all of his runs. He'd pull up quite exhausted after his runs, take a couple of days to get over them, and Hong Kong was a perfect example for that, where he was meant to go to England to race for the series over there, which I think was a $3 or $4 million bonus, and he just pulled up. He'd done too much, you know. And I think he got home from Moonee Valley that night. He hadn't raced, pulled up great the next morning. He ate his food, he got fed, got brushed, and everything like that. And I think he knew then that I didn't have to go in and go to war every time I jumped out of them barriers. So I believe that was the telling tale for him, because track work in the mornings, he'd jump out 5 times in a row and have no problems. But as soon as he got to race day where he knew he'd be put under that pain barrier again, I think he just couldn't do it anymore.
Now, the other race I'd like to talk to you about is the Magic Millions. Of course, you won 3 Magic Millions, but this one in particular you won on protest on Fontaine, trained by Gai Waterhouse, who also had the winner. You protested against the winner. Whose idea was it to protest, yours or Gai's?
Well, I remember I hopped off the horse and I said to Gai, it was no looking back with Nash, and he was stable rider and I was number 2 at that stage on Fontaine. And I said to Gai, I said, I want to protest. She said, you won't be protesting. You can't protest against the stable. It's just not how we do things, you know. He was first across the line, that's how it should stay. And I said, oh, okay, well, the stewards ended up calling us into the stewards room, and he said, would you like to protest? And I said, no. He said, well, how about we just show the replay? And Nash was in there with me. And he said, are you sure you don't want to protest? And I said, no. And then he asked me a third time. He said, I think maybe you should have a think about this. And anyway, I said yes to obviously protesting, and got a very big spray from Gai after. And the steward actually told me, the head steward at that stage, that if I hadn't protested, that I would have been in breach of the rule of not protecting, you know, the owners and that. And Gai's got a job to protect everyone as well, and she had 2 horses that she had to protect, and I had a job to protect my owners. So it was a bit of a weird one. Gai, it took a little while for her to get over it, but she never, by the time we got to track work on Monday morning, she was sweet. But the phone calls that night weren't anything to be pleased about.
A unique circumstance.
Yeah, it was.
No jockey really wants to have that on his CV. But
no,
anyway.
And even the way social media carried on after, and even I think on Racing Retro the next day, you know, by the end of the week, I wish I didn't get the protest. It just didn't sit well, and the publicity that come from it just didn't feel like a win anyway. So it was one of them ones that, yeah, my name's in the frame, but the photo I've still got, I'm running second in it. So there's definitely been better wins than that.
Of course, Tommy, we know racing's full of highs, but with the highs comes the lows as well. And of course, losing your brother would be one of the lowest points in your life, I'd imagine. Was there any thought of, after losing Nathan, that you didn't want to ride anymore? If Nathan wasn't there, you weren't going to ride? Was there any thought process?
Yeah, it definitely went through my head. Well, what went through my head is not how I was going to ride, how I was going to get through life, you know. Being able to just get through normal routines in life without having him there, not being able to talk to him, see him. Like every part of my life was his life. So I had to learn. It seems a strange thing to say, but I had to learn to live again. I had to learn to go through life standing on my own 2 feet, and I figured out very quickly that the closest I was to him was in the saddle and when I was riding. So that made it quite easy to do in the end. And I think if you look at the records, the following year of his passing, or the following 2 years, probably the most successful time I've had in the saddle. I can't remember a lot of it. I wasn't in a very good place for most of it, whether it was through alcohol or just sleeping. I think for the first 8 months I was sleeping 1 to 2 hours a night, maybe 3. So physically I wasn't in and mentally I wasn't in a great state, but for some reason my riding was just, I was like riding like a man possessed, and obviously Nathan had a massive part to do with that, and yeah, so that's what kept me going for sure.
Because you're right, those years, it even showed in the photographs that I've got of you. I mean, you could tell that you felt that Nathan was with you, was riding with you, and probably still does today.
Yeah, 100%. I look back on them times and it scares me to think of what would have happened if I didn't have racing with me. Like, I obviously didn't have my family, like my kids then. I had a wife and I wasn't even married then, I don't think. No, I wasn't married because Nathan wasn't at the wedding. So wasn't married, obviously had wonderful parents who were struggling with the same thing as I and losing a son, which obviously having kids of my own now, I just don't know how they did it. And so I think racing probably did save my life. It just gave me something to hold on to, and hold on to great memories with him and create some more for him to be proud of.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have some amazing wins on your board, Magic Millions, Golden Slipper Stakes, but 2 races on the Australian racing turf calendar have eluded you so far, as I mentioned in my preview: Cox Plate and the VRC Melbourne Cup.
The Cox Plate and the Melbourne Cup, I wasn't dreaming about winning an Everest when I was a kid because it wasn't around, but Cox Plates, Melbourne Cups, Caulfield Cups, they're the ones you wake up in the morning and that's the dream you had the night before, or you got the posters of Northerly and Sunline and just some of them great champions, Long Row, Australia Cups, just they're the posters that you had on your wall when you woke up in the morning. So yeah, winning races like that, it's not as easy to do anymore, especially the Melbourne Cup. The weights sort of take me out of the picture a little bit now, but get to ride in it this year, which I'm excited about, and hopefully one day I can have that cup sitting in my house, nice and proud, right at the front. It'd be nice.
Absolutely. I interviewed Corey Brown a few years ago, and Corey's never won a Golden Slipper. You've won 3. I said to Corey, would you swap one of your Melbourne Cups for a Golden Slipper Stakes? Do you know what his answer was?
No.
He said no.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
Even though he's got 3 of them.
Yeah.
So I think that says a lot. I think Melbourne Cups, you think about winning them, you dream about winning them, and once you've won one, it's a completely different feeling from what I've been told. And James McDonald, who's a Kiwi, he just says it's the best feeling in the world. So the emotion that guys get that don't show emotion after winning that race, I think that says enough for itself.
Yeah, well, Corey Brown told me it changed his life.
Yeah.
And they're life-changing.
It still does
races.
to this day.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you are regarded as one of the world's top jockeys, and you are competing in one of the top jockeys' rooms in the world against, well, they call him the best jockey in the world, James McDonald. What sort of pressures do you endure during the spring and autumn carnival, walking into that jockey's room?
I think it's great. I think you got to live for the pressure, and you've got to welcome it as well. If you don't feel like you're riding with pressure and that will to want to succeed, then you're not going to get to the top, or you're not going to get even close. And I always find I ride better when people like James McDonald are in the room, or you bring Zach Burton over from Hong Kong and Huey back from Hong Kong and Mark Zara from Melbourne. When these guys walk into your room, it's time to go. Okay, you got to aim up, and you've got to go to another level. And when they're not there, you can get comfortable. Mm-hmm. You know. So I think that if you ask a jockey, would you rather ride against the best, and maybe not be the best at the time, but compete against the best, or would you rather be the best? I think I'd rather compete against the best and see what it brings out in me. You know, I'd love to be the best one day, and hopefully that's yet to come. But to be the best, you've got to compete a bit against the best and show them how good you are.
Well, we asked Brad Gray, Sky Channel presenter and form analyst, where he thought Tommy Berry sits on the international stage of top jockeys.
Yeah, well, Tommy's right up there. He's amongst the best jockeys that we've got in Australia. And what I love about Tommy is when Tommy gets a bit of momentum, I think there's few better. I think he's a confident rider. And when he gets that confident and gets his back up, he can match it with anyone. And that's not only in Australia, that's around the world.
So in those early days when you were just finding your way in racing, who were your idols in the jockeys' room? Who did you look up to?
Well, Rodney Quinn was one that I admired for the way he stuck around for so long. He turned up every week with the same attitude. He was so well. He had a great mind on him. He was always very calm. And the way he ran around his business is something I admired. And then the Jim Cassies, Glenn Boss, them sort of guys. Kieran McAvoy when he come back from Dubai, to see how he went with struggling at the start with Dali and then slowly making his way through. Them guys, Nash, his longevity. I've looked. I can't pinpoint one jockey that I looked up to entirely. It was more just picking them little bits of jockeys that I admired for them, the way they handled their business, and how everyone was so different. And Hugh Bowman, his relaxed demeanour, which some people find too relaxed. Corey Brown, the way he just put everything into the perfect spot. Like all of these jockeys just had something about them that you wanted to take. And if you can't look at them jockeys and take something from what they've done, you're not looking hard enough. So you can't be blind to what they've done, and you've got to look at them closely because they're not. Some things aren't so obvious. You've got to look at them closely in the way they ride to see why they've been so successful.
So today's jockey not only has a manager to look after their rides, they have a valet sometimes to look after their gear, probably someone who does the form for them. What about nutritionists? Do you have them on side, or do you look after your own diet and Shani helps you as well?
Yeah, it's funny because nutritionists, they struggle with us not wanting to put too much food in our bodies and obviously dehydration, which is something that they obviously don't believe in, which is fine, but that's a jockey's life, So you take the parts that they can help you with. So I've had nutritionists in the past, and I find that the lightest meals, whether it's almonds and sultanas and stuff, that can give you plenty of energy, bananas and the good things, but obviously eating stuff with a lot of protein can mean they're big meals as well, and they want you to hit a certain mark every day, which if I hit that certain mark every day, I'd probably be 5 kilos heavier. So once again, you take your little parts that they can help you with, and definitely my lifestyle now and the way I eat and the way I look after my body is a lot better than it was 10 years ago, and I found a really happy balance. And the way you know that is because when you do have a sweat on race morning, it comes off you so quickly, where if it feels like it's taking blood out of a stone and it's taking so long to get the weight off, you're not fit and you're not healthy. So I think every jockey learns a lot about their body as they go on, and every person is different, and the things they put in their body to get it through your digestive system and the way you sweat, everyone's different in the way they handle it.
Now, we've mentioned your family, young family. You've got 4 kids, and I'm fascinated, and I'm amazed at your balance of life with your family and riding. You seem to be able to manage it seamlessly. It probably isn't that way, is it?
Well, it hasn't always been that way. Yeah. It's I feel like since I got disqualified and had that 12 months off, I learnt that I need to spend time with my family to be at my best. And I really enjoyed spending more time with them when I was disqualified. So that was something that I didn't want lost when I came back into my job, because that was my happy place. So for me, I think I learned a lot about myself when I was out. And in the last 3 years that I've been back riding, I've had a great work-life balance. I think my manager, Paul Joyce, does a great job because I'll ride every meeting and have a full book if it was up to me. And then Paul's great at managing that work-life balance, and he'll say, next week, look, you're only going to ride at a Wednesday. We'll give you the provincial meetings off so you can spend a bit more time with the kids in Shani, and Shani will let him know if she can see that I'm getting a little bit burnt out. And so it's a team effort to keep me at my best and to keep me, if I'm good at home with the kids and everything's good at home, I'm going to perform well at the track. So it's a balance, as I said, that hasn't always been there, even though it looks like it on the outside. It looks a perfect family, but no one's perfect, and and definitely not me. But I feel like the last few years I've come a long way.
So Tommy, if a young boy or girl came to approach you at the races and asked for your advice on becoming a jockey, what would you say to them?
Just to never give up. I think the people that give up easy are the people that probably shouldn't have tried to get into racing in the first place. It's a grueling game. It's a game. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle for starters. And I remember Hugh Bowman telling me this when I was a kid. He said, if you're going to treat it as a job, he said, find something else to do. He said, because you've got to live and breathe it, you've got to treat your body well, and you've got to look after it, maintain your weight. So you've got to have a great lifestyle to do that. So I think if you can go into the game and accept that there's going to be lows and treat them with content and know that that's going to happen and then get out the other side, if you can do that, then this is the right game for you, because it will reward the people that work hard, that are consistent, and that keep turning up every day, and that can handle the no, or that can handle the setbacks, or they can handle the troubles in life, whether it is losing a family member, and knowing how to get through that, you know. So it's not easy. That's my first bit of advice. And if you think it is, and like I said, then just go find a job doing something else. But it is the best job in the world. So like I'd give anyone that's light enough the opportunity to have a crack.
As I said before, Tommy, many thanks for spending some time with me, and let's hope it's not too far before there's a Cox Plate and a Melbourne Cup trophy in your collection. Tommy Berry, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Well, folks, it's becoming an annual tradition now, where racing gives back to those a little less fortunate than ourselves. And this year it was Tommy Berry, losing the silks and the saddle for the Santa suit and the beard, as he and his helpers, which included very much informed jockey Josh Parr, headed to the Children's Hospital at Randwick a week before the real Santa is due. Fantastic pictures coming through. This concept was put in place more than 20 years ago by Malcolm Fitzgerald and Steve Hart, and for more than a decade has had the backing of Racing New South Wales as well as Chris Waller Racing.